Okay, hopefully that works. I'm just organizing all the Zoom screens here. Good evening, good night, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. Danny here, speaking to you from Orange County, California. The way I like to do those webinars, and I actually have to remind myself, more and more people are telling me they're watching the recording and not actually joining the live session. So that's an interesting shifted pattern of people's behavior. So I have to keep in the back of my mind, this will be watched again in the recording. So good evening for those who are here, and hello to those who are watching the recording, whatever time you are on. I'm going to introduce myself in a moment fully. I just wanted to say that I actually try and take conversation questions as I speak. So if you have something you want to ask while I speak, I have the chat here in front of me. I will take a look. If it makes sense to answer, I'll definitely include it in the conversation. If it's something that we should kind of push back to the Q&C session, we'll do that. I decided that I no longer do a Q&A. I actually started doing, and it works well, a Q&C. Q&C is a questions and conversations. So it's like a Q&A, but what I've started noticing that people have a tendency to, if we have a conversation, stay after the seminar, after the session, after the content, and engage in the conversation. So you are most welcome to stay, not just for a Q&A, but for more of a conversation. I really like that. It makes it a little bit more interesting than just me answering questions, which I will do gladly. So thank you for that. If you are on the recording, you can always put comments, like, subscribe, email, whatever works for you. That being said, let's get started. I want to mention that I actually wanted to put an event or a seminar or a session together with a little bit more than basic things. So not just the trivial or the basic or fundamental of real estate investing, which we teach and talk about all the time, but actually something more that I think that are, I want to say simple, but good ideas to know for real estate investors. Not necessarily that simple, all of them. So let's dive into that. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dani Beit-Or. I live in Southern California for the past 10 years. Northern California before that. I've been a real estate investor for the past 20 years, 22 years. Time flies. And I have been primarily investing and working with clients, investors for the past 20 years, buying long-term rental properties, 100% out of state, what I call nice houses, nice communities, upper middle class, middle class, lower middle class kind of neighborhoods and cities and communities, the suburbs, aka the American dream, for probably 20 some years. I call it the most boring real estate one can even think about. So that's my aspiration, is I love boring real estate. Boring real estate for me has always been something that can help me accomplish the passive involvement goal. Never passive 100%, but close to being passive. So that's why I love boring real estate. Mostly single family homes, duplexes, fourplexes. I've done other things as well, but those are the main type of properties that I've been involved in, purchase myself, help others, and that's what we do day in, day out. Since 2004 and so far till today and more, I have helped our clients buy something along around 5,000 properties in more than 40, probably even 45 different US metros. So if you're doing the math quickly on your end, then you'll quickly figure out that I've been doing this before the crash of 2008, during the crash of 2008, and going through myself with a lot of challenges personally, professionally, with my client, after the crash, before COVID, during COVID, after COVID, right? So who knows what's coming around the corner? Hopefully nothing too crazy. So I've been doing it on a large scale for many years in different states, a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, a lot of successes as well. And anytime I put in a seminar or a session together. My personal goal is to share, to educate, to let people know, and not just kind of come in and waste your time. That's not what I'm looking to do at all. Just to give you a little bit of a reference, this is a map of the properties that our clients have since we started tracking it about 10 years ago. Not everything is there. It's probably not fully updated, but every red mark you're seeing, it's a rental property. Every blue mark you're seeing, it's a flip property. I have done about 90 flips in my career, and I've decided that I don't like doing flips anymore. So for a few years, stopped flipping houses and just focusing on rental properties or long-term rental properties. I want to make sure you understand this is the content of this session is not generated by AI. This is all generated by actual experience, real life experience, investing, talking, trying, succeeding, not always succeeding, trenches, etc. So no AI content here, except I did generate 3 images by AI. So the only AI you'll see here is 3 images, and that's it. So no AI here if you're expecting anything like that. If you want to get more information about the content that we provide, we have a YouTube channel, we have a podcast with a lot of educational content, probably 200, maybe 250 episodes. So that's there as well. We have information on our website. We have a additional website, which we have properties on. It's the reistar.com. It's our complementary or supplementary website. And we actually launched about 2 or 3 months ago a Telegram channel, which we just send notification, updates, some investment opportunities. So you are most welcome to subscribe, follow us, listen. I always aspire to just put quality information out there. Now I have one more warning. If you're expecting some sort of a sales pitch at the end of this seminar, there is not going to be any. So I apologize for those of you who are here for the sales pitch and are going to look for the discount of today's special. There is no today's special discount kind of a seminar or offering at the end. However, I do have a gift for you, just for appreciating you coming tonight. If you do want to have a gift, it's actually 3 gifts. It's an ebook that I've put together, very simple to follow, easy to understand, kind of very common logic, talks about very many aspects of real estate investing. There's a second gift, which is a list of resources and tools that we found or I've collected, gathered over the years for real estate investors, and a list of curated videos that I think are very beneficial for real estate investors. This gift for you I will give you with a discount code, because we're giving it for free at the end of tonight. So you are most welcome to tap into that if you are looking for. YouTube channel. Thank you, JC. It is YouTube. Just write Simply Do It or Simply Do It 1, and that's our YouTube channel. I will provide it again in a moment or towards the end. You will be able to see that. If you want to try and search Simply Do It Real Estate on YouTube, you should be able to get to our page. Thank you for asking. Okay, let's start by talking about some things that are beyond the basic fundamental aspect of real estate investing, some pointers that I want you, and I think it's important to know and understand so you can benefit even more. Okay, and I try to put it in a way that I'm moving from the easier one to explain to the a bit complicated one to explain, hopefully not too complicated. I want to talk about, there are only 4 of them. So I want to talk about number 1 is the concept of real estate professional. So what is a real estate professional? The IRS acknowledges that there are people who are real estate professionals, realtors, mortgage brokers, property managers. That's a given, right? That's not a problem at all. You don't have to have a real estate license or to be working in real estate full time in order to be considered a real estate professional. Now, why am I troubling you with that idea? So let me tell you why, and then I explain to you a little bit more about real estate professional. If you are a W-2 earner, you or your spouse, as a W-2 earner, a lot of people are looking for a way to reduce the taxes, right, on our income. If you have, which I see many times, clients that, spouses, they're clients, of mine. One is a W-2, and the wife or the husband are a stay-at-home mom or dad, or have a part-time job, and they own real estate, right? Or start owning real estate. Now, when you own investment properties, there's something that's called depreciation that you need to take on your investment properties. It's a tax deduction in a way, and you can actually use that tax deduction from your, it's called passive loss. When you have a rental properties and you're using all your expenses and you're using the depreciation, and if you have a mortgage, it is very likely, if you have a mortgage, that after all income, minus all expenses, you are actually reporting to the tax authority a loss. Because of the depreciation, many times it pulls everything down and you are reporting a loss. So if you have that scenario, you're reporting a loss, there is an opportunity to offset some of those, let's just call it artificial losses, against your W-2 ordinary income. So as W-2 earner, we have minimal ways how to offset our income. Using, in some instances, passive losses towards your active or ordinary income is a way to do so. However, that ability to offset some of those passive losses against ordinary income is no longer available if you earn more than $150,000 a year, right? So we have a bridge between passive losses and ordinary income, but with a cap. The cap is 150. By the way, I hope you understand I'm not a CPA, so anything I'm telling you is something that you want to check and make sure you know how to do with your professional. I just want you to be aware of this rule, aware of this concept, and then you go ask and say, what's the best way for me to use that or to utilize that? Going back to the idea, if you are a W-2 earner, a high earner, making more than 150, you're unable to offset the passive losses that the rental property or properties are generating for you, unless your spouse is a real estate professional. So what is a real estate professional? Well, we talked about the obvious one. What is not the obvious one? Well, the not obvious one, if you are work in real estate related activity, I believe 750 hours a year, which is about 15 hours a week, and your 50% of your income is coming from real estate, you may be able to qualify yourself as a real estate professional. And if you are a real estate professional, that limitation, that cap of 150 doesn't exist. Let me explain to you in a very simple way that you may seen or heard. You've probably seen in TV or some reality shows or read in some news article. Many times you see that the husband is maybe like a super millionaire high earner. And what does the wife do? She's a realtor. Why does a wealthy, super wealthy person needs a realtor and his wife to do realtor and sell real estate? Actually, they probably don't, right? And maybe the wife does maybe one transaction a year, right? It could be the opposite. I'm not trying to say it's just a husband and wife. And the whole point is they are qualifying the spouse as a real estate professional, so they will be able to offset passive losses against ordinary income. So the key here, are we able to offset passive losses against ordinary income? That's the bridge I'm trying to make, right? In order to do that, you got to be a real estate professional, and that will open you up an opportunity to offset those, part of that income. Why am I mentioning here today? Because a lot of the people I work with, my clients and non-clients, already have this setting, right? So just last week, I talked to one of my clients, and he is a high earner, owns many properties. The wife is not working. So he's already ready, set up with properties, activity, income to classify her as a real estate professional. And then we started talking about advanced, which I'm not going to go into here, advanced concept or ideas of real estate professional, how to offset even more than just your traditional passive, how to accelerate the passive losses. There are other mechanisms which actually are not going to be covered tonight. So if you have a spouse, you or your spouse are hard earners, and you or the spouse is actually stay at home, or not, part-time employee, or works part-time and qualify as a real estate professional. And maybe you already own real estate, so you're already halfway or maybe 75-80% way to qualify as a real estate professional. Then you may be able to benefit from that possibility. It's not complicated. You don't need to have a license. You cannot be a real estate professional without real estate. It's just not going to fly, not going to work. But if you own some real estate, I don't think the code says how much real estate, but some real estate, and you already have that setting of an income on one side and of one spouse, and the not so much income on the other side, then you can tap into this. If you tap into it, there is the basic level of how to leverage your real estate professional status, and the advanced level of how to do that. Now, the question that comes here, does it work for foreign asset? I don't know to tell you the answer for sure. My common sense is yes, because this doesn't, as much as I know, it says real estate and real estate professional. It does not say it has to be a U.S. activity. Okay, so that's just my take. Of course, I'm very knowledgeable about this on one end, but when it comes to the nuances and the specific and the situation, this is where my not being CPA kind of a limitation comes up. So make sure you understand the concept. Go check with your CPA or your advisor or financial or tax advisor, and consider incorporating it. I think a lot of people are not aware of it, and they're not aware how this can be super beneficial, right? Super beneficial. So even my client was aware about the concept, but did not realize he can actually accelerate or even leverage it more than he thought so, at first. Okay, second concept is what I call, and it's not related to the, let's call it item number one. Item number two, delayed financing. Okay, what is delayed financing? Well, let's just make sure we all understand what is the traditional route. When we buy a piece of real estate with a mortgage, at closing, we bring our own down payment and the mortgage, and we do a closing, we take financing. Great. That's a traditional way of buying when we're buying with a mortgage. There is a process called delayed financing, not refinancing, delayed financing, and I will explain in a moment the distinction. The delayed financing means instead of doing the steps of buying and financing and mortgage on the same day, right? Like it shows here, I'm splitting those two items into 2 dates. Could be a week apart. It could be even a month or 2 apart, right? And what it means is I'm going to buy the property cash, and I'm going to bring the financing, a little bit later. Let's just call it a month later. That's why it's called delayed financing. Why is it important to understand it's a delayed financing and not refinancing? Is because when you are refinancing, then the terms of a refinance are especially cash out refinance, are typically not as good as purchase money. So the ideal terms of the mortgage will be when we are doing purchase money, and the less ideal, not necessarily horrific, is when you're doing refinancing. The delayed financing should be, and typically is, almost like the traditional purchase money financing. Okay, the lenders understand that for that reason or another, there is a reason why we are delaying the financing. Now, what could be reasons? Let me give you 2 classical examples. Number one is we want to make a cash offer to be a little bit more aggressive with our offer, and maybe to offer a shorter time to close. And in order to do that, the cash offer will empower our offer altogether, right? So I'm assuming that, or the must, or the prerequisite to do a delayed financing, you do have to have the financing, okay? Oh, sorry, the cash. If you don't have the cash, you can't really do the delayed financing. So you need to have the ability to buy cash, sorry, and then bring the financing, you know, a few moments or a week, 3, 4 months later. If so option one is to have a little bit more aggressive offer, you know, with a shorter time to close and cash. A second scenario is, let's say we buy a house that it's, I want to say, just a little bit broken down, not severely broken down, something that within, let's just say 3-4 weeks after closing, we can make it all nice, and then we'll be able to get financing. I'm using the term a little broken down is because sometimes we have something even simple to fix that would not pass appraisal, not inspection, appraisal. So for example, let's say the living room carpet does not exist and we can see the subfloor, or we have a huge big hole in the wall, and I mean really big size hole in the wall in one of the bedrooms or the ceilings, right? Those are not difficult to fix, even very cheap and very quickly. But if an appraiser comes to the house and see that problem, they'll say, sorry, that house is not livable, inhabitable. I cannot approve it for financing, conventional financing. Of course, hard money, etc., is not a problem, but conventional. In that situation, we may decide to buy the house for cash, fix up whatever needs to be fixed up, and maybe even more, and then bring the financing, the delayed financing, maybe a month later. Not only that we can bring the delayed financing, very likely that the financing will even acknowledge or approve, if we do it properly, all the expenses that we shelled out in order to bring the house to inhabitable. So delayed financing can work very well. I want to give you one kind of warning sign. Don't start the process of delayed financing or financing in this method without communicating properly with your lender. The lender needs to be involved almost like you're buying with financing from the get-go. It's only about having a little bit of a detour at closing with the cash and bringing the lender or the financing thereafter. So don't do it, just by traditional method and then, oh, but Danny said that you can do delayed financing. Why can't I? No. Assume you're buying with financing. You walk the path, one cash in parallel with your lender as if you're buying with financing. At closing, you just say, hey, hang on, step aside, wait for a moment. I'll call you when everything is ready. When everything is ready, you can say, okay, I'm ready for you to come in and financing. The lender will need a few more weeks to make sure everything is fine. They'll give you instructions what they need from you if you're doing some renovation to the house, so they can include that in the purchase price, and then financing will come in. You have to talk to your lender about it. He's your partner on this process. Not all lenders are aware of that. Not all lenders are doing it. Sometimes there's some glitches in this program, so it's not a bulletproof. Don't wake up after the closing and just ask for financing. It will just end you in delayed in a refinance concept, or not a purchase money or delayed financing idea. Okay, let's talk about one of my all-time favorite topics, and I want to tell you guys, this concept here of mortgage acceleration, which I believe some of you have heard, some of you are aware, some of you are maybe vaguely know. This is nothing new about, there's no news here except reminding you it exists and what it means. And not only that, it is not just relevant for your investment properties. This is something that you can do with your own primary residence. And I want to start with a little story that will emphasize that. So 2009 or 10, I hold an event in the room. I'm talking about the times where Zoom was not even a startup, before Zoom was born. in Cupertino, Silicon Valley, close to Apple. We're in this building, this venue. I'd say 150 people in the event. This guy comes up. He talks about the whole concept of mortgage acceleration, and I'm like sitting front row. It's my event, and I'm sitting front row asking questions, and I'm fascinated. But super intelligent guy. He makes everything so complicated. I'm losing my mind how to even use that, because he's explaining the mortgage acceleration with working with another account. I'm not going to go. I don't want to confuse you, right? But I like the idea a lot. But it's very complicated for me to understand. And if I have something that is complicated for me to understand, it's also hard for me to explain to others. I sit for probably 2-3 weeks, dive in, do Excel, measure, compares. I'm like a little bit obsessed with it. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy could have explained the idea in 5 to 10 minutes and be done and not super complicated. So I'm going to give you the short version of it. The next thing I do after I kind of clear my mind how this concept works is I call one of my best friends who live in Mountain View, Silicon Valley, California. Very, very good friends, own their own townhomes, both work, no kids. He's a super intelligent statistics, math kind of a guy. I have a conversation with them on a Saturday night. I say, you guys, I got to tell you something. You're my friends. I want you to be aware of this concept, right? And I explain to them the concept. And I can hear he's listening and asking questions, because that's the type he is. She's more, knows that he's more the guy with the numbers. And okay, done. They're like, okay, thank you, Danny, and I really appreciate it. And done. And I, knowing them, how passive they are as people, I'm just, nothing's gonna come up with it. She calls me Wednesday night, so only 4 or 5 days. She says, listen, you remember the conversation, right, on Saturday? My husband took the Sunday to kind of dive into the numbers, as you can expect. And she's crying. She's on the phone with me Wednesday night, and she's crying. And I'm like, what's happening? I got to tell you something. 2 things happen. I was like, yeah, but why are you crying? She said, you'll know in a second. The first thing that happened is on Monday, we did the math, and we called our bank, and we decided to pay an extra principal payment every month for $500. And we already have that initiated. I said, great, why are you crying? She says, I'm crying for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, we found that by contributing an additional $500 every month, we will finish paying our mortgage when we get to be 55-ish. They're about 2 years apart, so about 55, which, by the way, it's coming up in 5 years or so. And that's the first reason. And she said, I'm crying because I'm emotional about it, because we kept asking, they're not real estate investors, we kept asking ourselves, what should we do when we get to 60? We want to retire at around 60. How are we going to keep up paying those payments? And we were struggling to figure out a way. And you came in and you just showed us how we can do it and gave us the answer we were looking for without knowing we're looking for it. So for that reason, just the fact that I would not have to carry this mortgage into our retirement, because we do want to retire fully, is unbelievable for us. And she says, and then while we're at it, we found out that we're going to save $135,000 in interest. And she says, you know us, we're okay, we're financially okay, but we're not super rich, or we're not rich. So for us to save $135,000 in interest payment, it's unbelievable number. So for that reason, I am emotional about it, and I want to thank you for telling us about this concept altogether, because we were lost about it. And this is what I want to tell you guys. So what is mortgage acceleration? Basically, is paying extra principal payment. How do you pay extra principal payment? Well, nowadays you go online, and almost every mortgage company offers you, a place to put extra principal payment on a monthly basis, and you just apply it towards your principal. That easy. Or you add a few more dollars to your mortgage payments, and that will make more extra principal payment. Why would you want to consider it? Well, there are definitely reasons why you don't want to consider it, and I'm not going to go into it right now. Why you would? Well, let's just say you have a 30-year mortgage and consistently you take all your cash flow after all the expenses, apply towards your mortgage as an extra principal payment. It is very likely you will finish paying your mortgage between 12 to 15 years. 12 to 15 years, right? The reason I'm saying 12 to 15 really depends on the interest rate and payments and the market, all of that. So meaning much quicker than before. Now, if you are, in life, we go to different stages. As I look at real estate, usually I look at the earlier stage of accumulating properties. Second stage is more starting to pay them down and maybe getting to the point of paying them down and maybe using some sort of a mortgage acceleration methodology in order to pay it sooner rather than later. And the third phase is benefiting, right? Is the distribution, is where we have maybe no mortgages and we're just enjoying the cash flow, whether we work or not. So that's kind of in general how I see those three main stages. However, sometimes it's hard to get to that point because we still have a lot of mortgage or relatively a lot of mortgage and we want to speed it up. That would be a way to speed it up. How do you speed it up? Well, it's very simple. You pay an extra principal payment. How much can you pay? Well, it depends in which stage of those stages you are. You can decide all your cash flow goes into the mortgage, the extra principal payment. You can decide that out of the cash flow that you have, half will go in, half will go into reserve, whatever you want to do. What do I like most about this idea is this: it is super flexible. You can pay more this month and nothing or less next month and a little bit more the following months, right? So there's no rule of how much you want to pay. So if, for example, you're having a tough month, so to speak, or vacant, maybe you don't pay anything. And then maybe a year later, your cash flow increases. Oh, you know what? I'm going to be, instead of paying $200, I'm going to pay $300 or whatever the number is. So that creates a lot of flexibility. So you can even speed it up or slow it down, stop, resume. It's that simple, right? Anyone who's trying to overcomplicate what I just told you, you're overcomplicating it, right? You don't have to overthink it. You just say, okay, do I want to accelerate? How much do I want to accelerate? Okay, what is the minimum I can do? Can I change the number as I move along? Absolutely. It's that simple. It's called mortgage acceleration, and it's just to help us get to the point of free and clear sooner. Now, do you want to get to that point sooner rather than later? That's a whole different conversation, but I want you to be aware of this idea, this concept, how simple it is, how flexible it is, and that you can use this little magic idea on any type of property with a mortgage, right? I really wish I could patent this idea and charge you for what I'm saying right now, but it's out there already. So just be aware of that. The questions that are coming related to this, are you talking about bi-monthly or weekly payments? You know what? You can look at it this way. It doesn't really matter. It's just another payment. You can make your regular mortgage payments, and let's just say you're paying between principal, interest, taxes, and PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Let's just say you're already paying $1,000 a month. Let's just use that. How about, and your cash flow from the property is $250. You add to your mortgage monthly mortgage payment $100. So now instead of 1,000, you pay 1,100. Okay, and maybe in 3 years, when your cash flow goes to 400, you move your $100 extra to $200, and now you pay 1,200. So that means even your acceleration is not in a straight line. It will just slowly, increase it, so you can, still get to the 12 to 15 years, assuming you made all those payments along the way. Where can you get an extra month principal every year? I'm not sure I understand. Where can you get an extra month principal every year? I am not sure about that. Yaniv, if you don't mind asking again, I'm going to move forward and we'll circle back to it. Okay, I think we are at the last point of this evening. And again, once we finish with the main content, questions, conversation, we can talk about real estate related items. We can talk, oh, sorry, obviously real estate. But if you want to talk about specific related to tonight or just general things related to real estate, that's quite all right. We don't have to stick to the content of tonight. So the whole idea, Q&C, right? Question and conversation. Now I want to tell you about another point that I actually came up with myself. I have to admit, I have not seen it anywhere. I've never, nobody taught that, or I didn't pick up on anyone doing it. So it's maybe something that's already out there, but I thought it's, you know what? I think it's simply brilliant, but very confusing. Okay. Simply brilliant, but very confusing. Okay. I'm sure everybody is familiar with the idea of mortgage points. If you're not sure what mortgage points, let's just simplify it. When you get a mortgage, the lender may offer you to buy points. 1 point is 1% of the mortgage amount. So $100,000 mortgage, if you charge 1 point, it's $1,000, right? 2 points, $2,000, so on. Points are something that can be purchased in order or paid upfront to the lender in order to pay down to buy down the interest rate. Okay, you pay points to buy down the interest rate. So that's what the whole idea of point is. What is the challenge is when you are facing with a mortgage and you're looking about the points and you're like, should I buy points? Should I not buy points? What is better? You know, it's hard to say. And the lenders are throwing it at you, you know, hoping you would know better what to do. The answer is, you know, it's not that clear cut. For me, the first question when deciding how to tackle the point of points is, what do I think the mortgage rates will do in the coming years? If I think, or in other terms, what is the likelihood I'm going to either refinance rather soon or actually hold it for many years? So if I am, let's just say a rule of thumb, if I think that 5 years is, I'm going to hold the mortgage more than 5 years, it's probably in my best interest to consider the points. Again, it all depends how much points, how much discount, etc. So if I'm rule of thumb 5 years, I don't think I'm going to refinance in the next 5 years. It's maybe in my best interest to consider using points. If I am thinking that the mortgage interest will go down in the next year, 2 or 3, and there is very likely that I will refinance down by even 0.5% or something like that, then I still want to consider using the points, but I don't want to pay the points to the lender. I want to keep the points myself. What do I mean? Follow me, because that's a little bit tricky here. So let's just say in this example that I gave $100,000, 1 point, it's $1,000. I could pay that $1,000 to the lender in order to get a better rate. So far, easy, simple. What if I pay, quote unquote, pay it? I don't pay it. I actually put it aside, right? I actually pay to myself. I pocket the $1,000 to myself. And instead of giving it to the lender, I'm just, you know, I'm going to tap into that $1,000 as my own mortgage program, or I call it self-dictating the points or self-administrating the points. Now, because I do believe the mortgage, or there's very likely that I will refinance in the coming years, in order to bridge the gap between the actual interest rate on my mortgage and the one that I would have received if I pay the points, I'm actually, there is a gap, right? Let's just say by buying the points, I'm saving $50 a month, right? So if I don't buy, the points, I'll pay $50 more. If I pay the points, I'll get a discount of $50 a month, right? I'm just using that as round numbers. So now I have this $1,000, you know, with a higher rate, not the discounted rate, with a higher rate. And instead of paying it to the lender, I'm actually using that money that I should have paid it anyway to cover that gap. So I'm paying $50 every month into that mortgage as if I bought myself the points. Okay, I know it's a little bit tricky to understand, so I'm paying it to myself. Now, if we look at 5 years as the kind of the break-even point, the place where it, it doesn't matter if we did purchase the point or not, the 5 years is kind of the rule of thumb. If I did kept $1,000 and after 2.5 years I refinanced, it's almost like I saved $500. If I refinanced after a year, I actually saved $750 because I'm keeping that money. If I refinance after a year and I already paid the points to the lender, they just gained $750. So this is a place where you can actually keep the points, pay to yourself, pay it as if you purchased a discounted point, assuming you're thinking, you're assuming at the point of getting the mortgage, you will refinance in less than 5 years. I'm also only using 5 years as a rule of thumb. It's not always 5 years. So this is an area where, first of all, if you're dealing with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes, 1 point is not a huge amount. If you're dealing with $1 million home, 1 point can be a lot of money, right? So it is matter. The bigger the mortgage is, this idea, what I just told you, matters very much. So the whole point of using this is to not give up on the discount, just managing the discount yourself. Now, if you were having a little bit hard time following this, because I know this is very abstract and it's even challenging for me to explain, look at the bottom here. There is a whole short article that I wrote about it that explains it a little bit better with an example, a numerical example, and you can read that, maybe understand it a little better than I was able to illustrate verbally. The link to this article is simply doit.net/SAMP. SAMP stands for Self-Administrating Mortgage Points. So simply doit.net/SAMP. The article is short, is simple, and you will even have an easier time reading it after having this verbal, somewhat maybe confusing explanation. I really think, for me, after years of trying to compare different mortgage avenues with points and options, and always a challenge and always wasting, about a month ago, maybe 2, I'm like, let me see if that can work in a different way. And I just I admit, I fell in love with my own idea. I think it's just kind of simply smart if you understand it, and then you actually can benefit, using it. And I really appreciate Earl saying, I get it, smart. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I don't normally brag on my own ideas, so I really appreciate that thought. So that being said, let me see questions here, some clarification. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so I think that the whole point of paying extra principal payment, there's multiple ways how to do it. The whole point of the whole idea of the acceleration, the extra principal payment, is to make the extra payment. You could do it twice a month. You could do it at the same time. You could do it 13 times a year. It doesn't matter. It's just, it all comes down to the same idea. Okay. All right. Moving on, guys. Let's see. What do we have now? Perfect. Our gift for you, the ebook. I hear it's amazingly put together ebook. Really easy to follow, read, and a lot of common sense and experience. Second gift, the tools, resources, and links that I've been putting together for years. There's about 90 of them. About 10 of them are links to podcasts, I think. The rest are different links. Some of them you're familiar, some of them you're not. you're most welcome to have that list of links. And third gift for you is a short list of curated videos on different aspects of real estate investing. This gift set, we do sell it for $50 on our website. We do run a promotion now with $30 for April and May. It is free for anybody who came here tonight and is on this webinar or listening to the recording, assuming you're going to listen to it in the next week or two, and it's not going to stay there forever. You know, it's for you, just a token of appreciation. Again, no sales pitch whatsoever about in those gifts for you guys. In few words about us, my company, Simply Do It. As you may understand, we focus on long-term buy and hold residential rentals. I've been doing it for more than 20 years, more than 5,000 transactions already and counting. We have vetted metros, vetted and trained agents, vetted property managers, vetted properties. So we do a lot of vetting, as you can see, and we are very active these days in greater Nashville, Tennessee, St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas, Birmingham, Alabama. Those are our mainly active areas. And we also have teams in Tampa, DFW, Tampa and Orlando, DFW, and Houston. We don't do there much these days. We do have teams, but not a lot of activity. So just to give you a little bit understanding of who we are, we do offer a session. We call it a welcome session, a one-on-one, an intimate session with me and typically me and Jessica who works with me, just to kind of talk about who you are, what's your concerns, what's your constraints, what you're not sure about, what you want to ask. Hopefully you got the style. No sales pitches during that session. Zoom, phone, in person if you're in Orange County, 30 minutes. Maybe we'll slide over to 45. That's okay. If you want to take the time to have a conversation with us, the whole purpose is to see if we can help you at what you're trying to accomplish as an investor, if it's a good fit for you and us. You know, that's why we're having this more intimate conversation and not have all questions dealt with here. Best way to go about it is to complete our pre-meeting intake on simplydoit.net/intake. simplydoit.net/intake. So that if you want to get on a call with me or a Zoom session with me and Jessica, here are the resources again, our YouTube channel, our podcast with, I think, well over 200 episodes, all educational, sharing, teaching kind of thing. Our website, simplydoit.net. The properties website, reistart.com. If you want to join, it's free. The Telegram to get updates, see some properties, notification, you can do that as well. Here's my contact information. I'm going to leave it here for a moment. And very brief moment. And with that being said, I want to open it to not just a Q&A, but a Q&C, a conversation. So the best way to go about it is to maybe ask your question if you have, with a quick, with a brief introduction. Hey, this is, I don't know, this is Dave from New York. I'm a beginner. I want to ask this, or this is Charlie from Seattle, and I've been investing for some time. So something like along those lines, I would appreciate that. I'm gonna step into the outside of our screen here, move back to our videos. If you want to put your video on, that'll be terrific. I'm gonna watch your and wait for some questions, for some conversations, some comments.
Hey, Dani.
Yes.
Quick question. So there is this method of buying in cash, not taking any loans, Dave Ramsey style, building that Not try to leverage, not try to own anything to anyone, not try save the interest. Was kind of wanting to ask your angle about it. I mean, that actually yields 100% cash flow for sure. I mean, there is no argument there. But what's your take about, especially when we are advancing in years in age, right? I mean,
So your thing, let me see, are you talking about what's called the Burr method when you buy?
no,
Not, no.
let's say there is a property, I like it, it's a nice neighborhood, good flow, there is a good market, and just buy the cash and
Oh,
start
buy
collecting
cash.
cash,
Okay.
not delay financing, not even call the
Cash.
bank, cash, whatever they want, given to them, start collecting rent.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. So what is the buying
So the
cash,
question,
collecting rent? What is the
yeah,
question
the
again?
question is whether to take this money, let's say the house costs 300K, I'm just making it up. Instead
Mm-hmm.
of buying the entire thing on one house, take that money and leverage it and take loans and buy 10 different houses. I'm just, again, making it up.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So I think that it sounds like the question is it better to buy one house for cash, or maybe let's just call it 3 or 4 with financing?
Financing, and this is a function of, let's say you're about 10 years from retirement and you want to use those houses for some income. I'm not calling it passive because nothing is passive about owning a rentals. I mean, there's a lot of work. So there is some income that comes in. Um, so one versus the other. What's your take on this?
Okay. So here's my take.
Mm.
Generally speaking, I prefer mortgages and buy as many, or I don't want to say as many properties, but buy more properties than less properties. What I found, let me give you the answer that I'm hearing from my clients. I don't want to say on a weekly basis, but at least once a month, someone says something similar. And it goes like this. I wish I bought more. I wish I started sooner, or I bought more sooner. Okay. The reason is, for the most part, and then I'll give you some specific situation. The reason is every property that you own, for me, I look at every one of those properties like you planted a fruit tree. And I'm using the term fruit tree because a fruit tree, when you plant it as it young, slowly it grows in equity, and the fruits are like your cash flow. So do you want 1 tree or 2 trees? 2 trees or 4 trees, right? So that would be my philosophy of I rather buy with a mortgage and hold it for many years, let time do the rest, and benefit slowly from the growth. I'm using the term slowly because usually it's not a fast-paced kind of
No, it's
a
very
way.
slow.
Exactly. And that's how I perceive it versus buying cash.
What
So
about
between
interest
cash,
payments?
hmm?
Interest payment. Banks love give loans. That's how they make profits. And profits to them means less profits to us as investors. Mortgage payments are not free. You pay interest and quite a bit in today's market. And if you could save, let's say for in the course of 15 years, you save that interest.
So you're looking about what you're saving, not what you're gaining. That's interesting.
The,
So
it's this is money that still in my pocket instead
okay.
eventually went to their pockets.
I love this question and conversation because it's super important. Okay. Let me give you my
Yeah.
truly, if I refine my love of real estate the way I do it myself and teach others. We call it real estate investing. I call it financial vehicle. Seriously, a financial vehicle. It's a financial vehicle that works like this. You have the ability to buy an asset, a house. Let's just call it a financial vehicle, an asset.
Mm-hmm.
In real estate, you only need to bring at least, without exception, 20% down, right, for investment property. So that means a very high leverage mechanism. Again, it's a vehicle with a very high leverage. Why am I saying it? Because if you do a startup, if you go to the bank and get a loan for a business, it's not going to be high, with that much of a leverage. So rather a lot of leverage and rather easily. And when I say easily, it's never easy, but You don't have to put a business plan. You don't have to prove that you have experience in the field. You don't have, like, all those craziness of a business here.
Yeah.
We want to see who you are. We want to see that you have good standing with payments and good credit and good income, not even amazing income. You don't have to be. So where else do you have a financial vehicle that enables you rather easily, not without, challenge, to borrow so much relatively to the asset value, right? I'm still searching. I always come back when I think about it to, a rental property, a financial vehicle. Now, look at this financial vehicle, because it's even better than what I just said. Now, not only that you are able to leverage your own money quite a bit, because you need some, but you're borrowing most of it. Someone else is paying down your debt. We call it a tenant, but the tenant pays in, right? And they pay down your debt, and they pay the expenses. And you know what? If you do it correctly, you may even end up with a little bit of a cash flow after all the expenses. And this is before even diving into some tax benefits you may get out of it. That's a whole different level here. That's like the way there is more, but we're not going to go into the more. So this financial vehicle, you need to have some cash in order to buy it. That's one challenge. But if you do it correctly, again, I'm not saying every type of, like, if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, this is very hard to accomplish because the rents are low, the properties are high, right? But if you do it in Kansas City, it's very achievable. And we rent it out. Someone else is paying everything: the debt, the mortgage, the expenses. And guess what? You even have a little bit of a cash flow. Can you show me another financial vehicle that it's available for most of us? And I'm not talking about, maybe financial vehicles that are on, if you are investing in kind of a startup that invests in funds, that are only going to let you in if you spend $1 million and you get access to pre-IPO, that's amazing. This is not special circumstances. So that for me is an unbelievable vehicle.
No, I think I agree, and I think all of us agree. Otherwise, we will not be in this call.
Right.
I think that it's not a question whether real estate makes sense. The question is the algorithm to go and build wealth. Is it by leveraging? Because the tenant that paid the debt, and so he pays the debt. That's true. He pays the profit to the bank within the monthly payment that he's doing. And instead of moving that payment to the bank, you get that payment instead of them. That's all I said, and that's kind of a different strategy of how to do that.
In my opinion, the way I get what you're saying, the way I see it, I don't care about the bank's profit. I care about what I'm getting. Like, I am egoistic about it. I know there's someone else is gaining, right, from the interest, but there's also I am gaining more, in my opinion. Or let me put it this way, I cannot think of another method that I will need to bring as little cash in order to get to that scenario.
Okay.
So where else can I go? What's my alternative? So would I prefer to pay 2% and 3% and 4% versus 6 or 7? Absolutely. But that's just what the interest rate is. But I know there's always going to be an interest rate, and I'm well willing. I personally make peace with it. Let them earn. I'm going to earn as well. It's not just only them. Honestly, I don't care about them, but I know they're earning.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. By the way, by the way, there's also what I call the middle ground sometimes, where someone comes to me and say, I want to buy cash. Usually it's not for the reason of avoiding interest payments, but more like maybe more in different stage in life. My suggestion is always to consider, instead of one house for cash, I'd rather you buy, for your sake, 2 properties with 50% financing. So that's kind of middle ground, because that will cost you almost the same amount of money and will generate almost the same cash flow. Not exactly, but very close. So 50% is a really nice way to both continue leveraging, but very conservative, so the cash flow is still there. And it's better. I would rather you have 2 properties in 10 years instead of 1.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. And thank you for the Okay, cash velocity, leverage currency, leverage is powerful. Okay, thank you for the clarification. I agree. Someone asked for the links. I just put it here. You're welcome. Can you share the link? Think I just did, and let me just make sure I have another link here that for the contact info, just in case. And I'm still sticking around if there are more questions, gladly. And the one thing I didn't mention is that we have one more webinar coming in on May 16th. We are going to talk about how to overcome typical challenges investors have, especially when they're starting out. So overcoming challenges or common challenges or things that typically come from before even getting started, and we are having in our mind kind of blocking them out. You guys, I'm going to be kind of chatting for the next 1 minute. If I don't see any questions, we're going to kind of shut it down for the day. I really appreciate you guys are here tonight. Hope to connect with you more in person or in more intimate environment as a welcome session with us. And I see the questions are not coming in, so I want to thank you. Have a terrific rest of your night, terrific rest of your week, or have a nice weekend. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.